So it's better to fast track that life for them while they're in high school than for them to make a decision that can cause them a lifetime of anxiety and, dissatisfaction that this is not for me.
We're all human. We all are deserving of belonging and an opportunity.
Just take a lead in any time you can, because once you take the lead, somebody else will follow you. So look for opportunities, jump on the opportunities to serve people.
I'm really glad we're recording this so I don't have to be furiously taking notes, because you're dropping so many amazing life lessons for us. When everything around us is engineered to divide our attention, how do you become present enough to leave people feeling seen and be the one they remember? Welcome to Hold the Room. I'm Cara Truitt, speaker, event host, and community builder. Together, we'll explore what it takes to build real influence in the age of distraction. If you're stepping into bigger rooms, welcome in. Today, I am speaking with Najam Usmani. Najam is an entrepreneur, global leader, activist, philanthropist, and speaker, heading Fulbright Ventures. But perhaps his most memorable quality is his presence and ability to connect at a deeply human level with all he meets. It's an honor to introduce you to my friend, Najam Usmani. Najam, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
We met barely a week ago, and it felt like we became fast friends in one conversation because we shared something really special, something that we both believe, which is that presence is one of the most powerful tools that we have at our disposal, and really a choice that we can make in every moment to create impact, to build influence, and to not only network, but netweave a community around us. So that is why I invited you here. You had such an incredible presence. From the moment that we met, I knew that you needed to be part of this conversation. So thank you so much for being here. It's an honor to have you.
All I did was paid for a cup of coffee and a croissant, I think, and we've become fast friends. But no, I felt the same connection when we met. I think you've got an incredible ability to be an active listener, and so many of us are always jumping to be heard when it's more important to be interested than interesting. So you carry that ability. So I'm glad that I'm here, and I'm glad that you invited me.
I love that. More important to be interested than interesting, and being genuinely curious about the people that are in your company, right?
Yes.
So tell me about a time when, if you can think of someone in your past who really made you feel seen and had that presence with you. Can you think of a story?
Well, there are many, but the one that really pops in my head is when I met the former president, Bill Clinton, for the first time in 2015. My wife didn't know that I spent a lot of money to be in the room. And it was a very small event, maybe 25, 30 people. And one of the habits that I have, Cara, is I always sit or stay in the front, because when you're in the front, somehow you absorb more, you learn more. Mm-hmm. And it's seldom is the case when you meet somebody like President Clinton. So when I was in that room, he was constantly looking at me. And President Clinton has this incredible ability to really disconnect the entire world if he's talking to you. So we had multiple instances when he looked at me and I had goosebumps. And once he got done speaking, he looked at me and he said, "I'd like to know your story." And I just had an out-of-body experience. And I said, "Mr. Clinton, the country that I come from, it's very difficult to be in the same room to meet a president, former or current. And I'm just very honored to be here. And I came to this country 30 years ago. And with nothing in my hand. And if it wasn't for the greatness of this country, I'd be worth 1/10 of 1%. And now with every ounce of energy that I have, I'd like to serve this country." And that's where the light bulb moment went off for me, that, American dream wasn't about making money. Sure, it comes, because of the opportunities that we have in this country. But more importantly, I started chasing impact, and hence the desire to be in public service down the road. But that was the moment that changed my life forever.
That's amazing. I mean, what did that mean to you to be seen by someone so powerful when you probably walk around feeling maybe invisible some of the time, as you were coming here alone? You didn't have any family, any friends, any resources, and through connection built yourself up to a point where you could even be in the room.
Yeah.
But then I remember you told me at coffee, that even whenever you left, he came and
That's right.
put his hand on your shoulder.
Yes. Yes, that's true. So when I finished my sentences, my voice got deeper. I walked away from the scene. Everybody clapped for me. And then before he left the event, he came looking for me, tapped me on my shoulder, and he said, "This country was yours 30 years ago. This will be yours 30 years from now. And don't ever stop telling your story." So that finished that entire full circle moment for me. And because I carry a low IQ, people will eventually realize, I can only fake it for so long. It took me 30 years to realize that American Dream wasn't about money. It was about impact. And that's what my pitch is to the new generation, that, become a person of service. Because when you become person of service, become a humble servant, opportunities will come to you. Because, God put us here for a reason. Living a purposeful life is so much more fun than living a life with no purpose. So I think, as I went on in this journey, the last 10, 12 years of my journey with like all my candidates, and I also met Senator Tim Kaine, at my house. I hosted him, and he taught me a very important lesson. It was the first time I was hosting somebody so powerful at my house, and we had 60 some people, and I was running around trying to make sure everything is perfect. And Senator Tim Kaine, when he entered my house, he said, "Who's Najam Usmani?" And I sat with him, and he literally took me aside, and he said, "Tell me more about you." And he taught me a lesson about just opening up the floor to somebody. And he said, "Tell me more about you," just one line. And in my subsequent, now we're very good friends. Every time I go to DC, he always opens up his schedule for me. And he taught me a lesson of how you can just give the floor to somebody and hear about their story and validate them. So I've taught him, I told him many times that, "Mr. Kaine, you have taught me a lesson of a lifetime." A lot of times, Kara, we go to college and we go to school, universities, to learn a subject matter. But life isn't learned in a college. Life is learned on the street. And if you're wise enough, if God gives you the wisdom to learn from others, there's no better teacher than life. And I've been very lucky and fortunate to be in positions where I was able to make friends with some incredible people, whether it be my barber, the lady who cuts my hair, the guy who cleans my pool. I'm connected to them the same exact way as I'm connected to the U.S. senators and governors and the most powerful people on the planet. So it's just having the same skills, no matter what, is important.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that you want to share these lessons with the youth, and you created an incredible program for this. Can you tell us about Champ Camp?
Yes. That happened a long time ago. I have 3 teenagers. Okay, they all went to Marvin High. And I didn't want them to be raised in a affluent environment. And I didn't want them to be connected to their phones all the time. Certainly they have the luxury of having the phones and iPads. But so out of, honestly, sheer selfishness, I created a program called Champ Camp at my country club, Longview Country Club, South Charlotte. And what I wanted to do is just have my kids. So the first event, we had 3 of my kids and 2 of their friends, because they couldn't say no to them, because I was obviously paying all the bills. And first event, we had 5 people, my wife and I, we put that together. And then we weren't getting much traction. The idea was, get the high schoolers a glimpse of the future. Certainly they'll go to high school and college to learn about different subject matter, and they'll become subject matter experts in whatever they choose to do. But more importantly, how will they learn about life? How do we fast track the future to them? Eventually, Mr. Brad Breedlove, who's at Union County High School, superintendent or deputy superintendent, Brad and I met, and Brad was very kind. One of the things that people who are in any position, they always pass the credit to somebody else. And I want to pass this credit to Brad Breedlove, who has been integral in establishing our Champ campaign. Eventually, we put through 700 high school students through our program once a month. And in that program, we used to bring 2 speakers from different walks of life, whether it be dermatologists, anesthesiologists, professional athlete, business owners, CFOs, CEOs, and they would share their experiences with the children. So they'll be given 20 minutes to speak, and kids will have 10 minutes to ask questions. We'll have 2 speakers, but the last part of that program, Champ Camp, was 45 minutes of working on solving business problems. So, for example, I'd give them, how do you network with people that you don't know? And that program took a life of its own. It was, when we put through 700 students, one of the goal that we had in mind was how do we elevate the mindsets. So we had kids from very affluent district and we had kids from not so affluent district, but then we merged them together and we had a support from a lot of teachers. I remember Monroe High School, the kids didn't even have the money for the gas to come to our club. So one of the school teacher volunteered to drive the school bus to the club. And the first time they came to the event, they were timid, they were shy, but third time they felt that they belonged. So much of it is just giving our next generation the ability to look into the future and elevate their mindset where anything is possible. Mm-hmm. And that, unfortunately, is not taught in school because the schools box you up into certain social class. And how do we remove that handicap that somebody is born with? So that idea actually worked, and would like to actually restart it again. But we had great traction. We were very blessed that we were able to make impact in at least 700 students. And one of the things that we did through that program is create mentorship program. So we had students who wanted to be a medical doctor, and then I plugged them in with one of my medical doctor friends, and they shadowed them, and they realized that they can't see blood. So they didn't want to be in that position. So it's better to fast track that life for them while they're in high school than for them to make a decision that can cause them lifetime of anxiety and, dissatisfaction that this is not for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just creating the opportunity for people to have a sense of belonging.
Yes.
And have, that feeling that I could be there when they would never have had the opportunity to maybe come in contact with some of those professionals in a similar manner that you were able to be exposed to people that you thought, I've never been able to be in that room. It's so powerful, and to help them see that no matter where we come from, different socioeconomic backgrounds, different stories, we're all human, mm-hmm. and we all are deserving of belonging and an opportunity.
Indeed.
So one of the things I know that you shared with them, and you shared with me as well, is your 7 habits for highly connected people. Tell me about those. I would love to share those with our audience.
Yeah, so I put together a program just on my way in. I was talking to my nephew and I said, we always talk about cars 0 to 60. He's into cars. He knows about all these high performance cars. And mm-hmm. I just need a car that can take me from point A to point B, whether it be, could be any car. But 0 to 60 is we often connected with, related with cars, high performance cars. But we all have a 0 to 60 with people. And how do you take that 0 to 60 and apply it? So recently I was given an award at my college, alma mater, which is another story. I came with nothing in my hand. Second day I started washing dishes in Minnesota. And for me to be able to receive an award, I was very honored. So I spoke with 60-some students just about a month ago at Minnesota, and we talked about 7 habits of highly connected people. And those habits are nothing new. We all know that. But one of them is, the first one is sincerity and compassion. I think so many times when we're talking to clients or we're talking to our business prospects, we're always thinking dollar signs. And your physiology will just give it away. I always focus on being sincere and being compassionate. Because if you are focused on what's in it for me, that just doesn't work. A solution is only a good solution if it's a win-win-win for everybody involved. Mm-hmm. So sincerity and compassion is one of the habits I talk about. Then we have never be afraid to fail. A lot of times we don't want to try because we're scared to fail. But failure, I've learned to celebrate failure. Because when you learn to celebrate failure, that just means you're trying harder. We hear about this, we talk about this in the books, but when we're hit with a difficult situation, we just like to fold. And that's when you need to have your network, your supporting cast that can lift you up. So that's another one. Then the other one I have is being interested versus interesting. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I'm more focused on listening and paying attention. So my phone, for example, I never let my phone distract me. Right now, my phone is on Do Not Disturb. Anybody who's important, they know that I'm like in a podcast, because this is my time with your audience. This is my time with you. I'll be doing a big disservice to you and your people, your audience, if I'm like distracted. So being interested is so important. And Senator Tim Kaine taught me a lesson of a lifetime. when he said, well, tell me more about you. Imagine, you walk into a room and you meet somebody new and you give them the floor. Number one, it's courteous. Number two, they give you information so you can have follow-up questions. Number three, they just think of a word of you. So being interested is so important versus when we are, sometimes, we go to a party and we just want to be talkative, overly talkative because we're nervous. Versus when I say, well, tell me more about you, it just relaxes me as well because I'm letting the other person do you'd be surprised, Cara, that I've not read a menu in a restaurant in 30 some years. I've not read a menu. So when we go for dinners, generally my wife orders or I'll just ask the waiter or waitress, hey, what are your specials? At least one thing will click. And then I let other people order first. So why do I need to waste my brain cells ordering food? It's just not a life and death situation,
I'm smiling because I do something similar because my dad, in every restaurant I've ever been in with him, he doesn't look at the menu first. He might glance at it, but when the waiter or the server comes by, he says, "What's your favorite thing on the menu?"
There we go.
And he almost always orders whatever they say. Yeah. And it's something that I grew up hearing him do, and it's something that I do to this day.
It simplifies things, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
but you learn something because usually they tell you, they tell you more than you might not even see on the menu, but also you usually learn something about the person too.
That's right. Yeah. So interested versus interesting is another one. I focus on listening more than, and when you enjoy listening, it's so much more fun. That domain that, like I said, networking there are two types of networking. One is when you want to network with people, and the other one is when people want to network with you. And that's a very fun domain. Interesting versus interested is the same type of comparison. When you are interesting, versus when you're interested, it's just so much more fun to be a nice, active listener. The other habit that I talk about is never be afraid to fail, and then networking is in their DNA, not because they're looking for business prospecting, it's just that they're looking for opportunities to create impact in anybody that they connect with. Your meeting with me last week was just a very small 45-minute session, but we felt connected. And now so many people can benefit from this podcast, right? So we're looking for active opportunity. I'll give you an example. I was at an event last week, Rotary Club event in Uptown Charlotte. And there were 60, 70 people in the audience. And I met a lot of my, acquaintances there that I haven't seen in a long time because of my travel schedule. And they got up and they said, well, we're doing a public community event, a community service event. We need 20 volunteers and we only have 8. So I raised my hand. I said, okay, I'm going to volunteer myself and I'm going to volunteer at least one more person. Because I raised my hand, at least 8 more people raised, because I'm almost hasty when it comes to doing service. So I didn't want anybody else to raise hands before I do. So I raised my hand and then I called my nephew and I said, hey, you need to come with me. And that one event is going to create an opportunity for me to serve somebody on Saturday at 9:00 in the morning. And my nephew will learn the importance of service at a very tender age of 20, when most people are not interested in that. So networking is in their DNA. When I mentioned that, what I mean by that is look for opportunities to create impact. And just because I was at that event, I was able to volunteer. I made a donation for diaper drive that they're doing. And they raised, 200,000 diapers, and they were looking for another $260. And I said, well, I'll just donate $500. Just take a lead in any time you can take a lead, because once you take the lead, somebody else will follow you. So look for opportunities, jump on the opportunities to serve people, regardless of color, religion, background, anything, because that's what our Constitution tells us. We need to serve people regardless of age, color, gender, any biases. So it doesn't really matter who that is. In the end, somebody is receiving a goodwill because it will come back to you tenfold.
That's amazing. I completely agree with everything you shared. I'm really glad we're recording this so I don't have to be furiously taking notes, because you're dropping so many amazing life lessons for us. One of the things I wanted to ask you about is because you deal with a lot of people internationally. And I remember when we met, I asked you, how many languages do you speak? Because you were telling me about all the different countries that you do business. And you said only 2. So tell me, is there anything that you do when you are online? Because a lot of these things that we do today are online, and a lot of people are working from their computers, maybe across time zones, maybe across languages. What do you do to bring presence into those conversations when you're really just virtual?
Mm-hmm. So when you talk about linguistic languages, obviously I only speak 2 languages, which is Urdu, which is my native language, and the other one is English, obviously my second language, which has become my first language because I've been here 37 years. But the language of kindness, compassion, humility, peace,
it's universal.
It's universal, right?
Yeah.
So whether it be a contact in person or a contact virtually, those 7 habits that I talk about, you can transcend it over the phone, over a Zoom call. So the language of kindness, compassion, like, something happens when people get together. I really believe when I was in corporate America and I was a high-flying corporate executive back in 95 through 2003, I used to bring my entire team from all over the world in Northbrook, Illinois. We used to spend a lot of money, and my bosses always questioned my expense report. But what they didn't realize, the intangible that I would get from those meetings, bringing people into one room, bringing people into one geography from all over the world, it had true value. We are more, because we are Americans, we are driven by data. We're driven by stats and numbers and percentages and ROIs. How do you quantify intangibles? You just can't. Data numbers you can take, but because we're so data centric, we forget that the intangible is the real connection that we're making one-on-one by looking into somebody else's eyes. When I shake hands with somebody, when I do business with them, they know who they're dealing with. You cannot quantify that. The intangibles are impossible to quantify. Intangibles are what we're missing now in this world, where we have become so data centric about the numbers and the ROIs and investments and whatever. But I have never met, even Einstein wasn't able to quantify intangibles. Intangibles are the most important assets in any transaction. Trust, how do you quantify trust? How do you quantify goodwill? How do you quantify honor? You just can't. So as we become more, and I feel as an American, leaders of the free world, as we call ourselves, we have a responsibility and obligation to go back to the basics of truth, the basics of honor, the basics of keeping your words, the basic of keeping your promises, the basic of goodwill. That's our asset. That has been our assets forever. When I came to America at age 19, 7 years ago, just the flag meant something to me. Just the US flag meant something to me. The beacon of hope and opportunity for not some people, for everybody involved. This country is great because we're all in it. Just look around you, look at the color, look at the languages that we speak. That's what makes us beautiful. That's what made us great. That will keep us great, and that will keep us greater. So the ideology, America is that beautiful country. When I remember when I got my visa in Karachi, Pakistan, at age 19, the immigration officer asked me, she said, "Son, do you know where you're going?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm going to America." And she said, "No, you're going to Minnesota." I'm like, "Oh, okay." She said, "Well, do you have warm clothes?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've got some sweaters." She's like, "Good luck, son." Because Minnesota is very, very cold and frigid, as you can imagine from being Ohio. So the beauty of this country, I sensed it. And if you remember that program, Perfect Stranger, the television sequel, Perfect Stranger, that was the beginning of my dream. I used to watch that program, and they used to show Chicago skyline. And back at age 14, I used to tell people, this is the city I'm going to live in one day. And nobody believed in it because I didn't have the money. I didn't have anything going for me. But somehow God made ways for me because my vision was very clear. And my dad was the most integral part in keeping that dream alive. So to me now, what's upon me is keeping that hope and opportunity alive for everybody, anybody, because I dreamt when I was 14 to be in this country. And there is nothing more powerful to me than being an American. But I realized and learned that being an American wasn't about making money, it was about making impact. So I chase impact every time, every day. I start my day as if my legacy is ahead of us. And what I did yesterday didn't matter. What matters is what I'm going to do today and tomorrow. So I want to keep this dream alive. America is that beautiful dream, that beautiful country. And it's not because of our military might. It's not because of our economy. It's because of our people. There are people in this country that believe in justice. They believe in then fairness, equity, because that's what the world is looking for. The world is looking for leaders that are going to be just, fair, equitable. And that's why I love this country, the people. America is going to be great and greater, not because of the money we have or the resources that we have, is because of the people that we have. There is no country in the world that has 350 million people, but majority of these people believe in justice, believe in a constitution, believe in truth, believe in honor, believe in goodwill. And this is my next fight. This is what I want to do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's what you're talking about is something that I like to call love between the lines. And that, we all have these different markers, these lines that we use to define ourselves and others. But beneath it all, we're human, right? We're human. Absolutely. And so if we can love each other between the lines, we can connect between and just, reach that place of human connection with everyone we meet, regardless. We realize that we're all actually kind of looking for the same thing. We're looking for connection and all the things that you mentioned. Thank you so much for sharing with me today and just taking the time to sit down and connect with me. If you could say one thing, you want to leave one thing to someone like a younger version of yourself, like your nephew, like one of the students from your champ camp, or just someone that's really looking to make a difference, but maybe they don't feel like it's possible, what would you say to them?
So my life is all stories, Cara, as we spend more time, so in Chicago, I used to wait tables, and I was trained almost for 2 months to get my first table. And finally, they gave me my first table. And even when I was looking to wait tables, I wanted to be a server at a very high-end restaurant, because then I learned the mannerisms, from at a high-end level restaurant. And then I finally got my first table, and was a good-looking, sharply dressed man who came, and he just had 2 glasses of wine. And I served him. He was my center of universe. Like right now, nothing matters to me than this moment. Like your audience. That's all I'm thinking. I don't prepare for my speeches or anything like that. I used to prepare, but then it was jaded. I like to be fluent. I like to be authentic. I like to speak my heart. And the gentleman, I served him. He was my center of universe for that 45 minutes that I served him. And I made sure that he was taken care of. I was all around him, making sure that he's got the privacy, but yet at the same time, he's getting what he just had 2 glasses of wine. And when he left me a $100 tip. This is back in 1994. And I ran after him and I said, "Sir, you left me too much money." I'm thinking maybe he's a little drunk, but wine cannot make you high. And he said, "No, I left it for you intentionally." And I said, "Oh, wow, okay, that's great. My first tip, $100 back in 94. That's great." And I said, "Well, thank you very much, sir." And he said, "Well," and then he looked me in the eye and he said, "When you become successful, not if, when you become successful, make sure you take care of people in this industry. Because either there's struggling mom trying to pay their bills or struggling students trying to make the ends meet." That was a lesson I learned in Chicago when I was just starting out. And to this day, unless somebody gives me a very, very bad service, by default, 20% is added to the tip, 50%. Because like I said, we're learning our best lessons of life out on the streets. We just have to have the wisdom to pick up on those signals. To finish the question that you asked me, I was being interviewed. So my student union, once again, it's all about mindset, right? If you have some more time, I would love to share one.
Please.
Okay, so second day in this country, I started washing dishes because I had no money. So it was a survival mode. I didn't have a rich bother sending me money. It was just a dream that I had. Literally, second day I started washing dishes, and I was getting paid $3.75 an hour. And as an international student, I could only work 20 hours a week. So I did my math, and I'm like, this is not going to cut it. And so I started looking. Maybe 3 months into it, I didn't like the apron. I didn't like the hat. And I still don't eat peanut butter jelly, because when all these students from college would put peanut butter jelly, it would take me twice as much work to unscrape them off the plates, right? So I don't eat peanut butter jelly because I had the trauma, right? Then I started looking, and I saw a Caucasian guy with a bunch of keys and a pager walking around Student Union. And I asked my Pakistani friends, that, hey, who's this guy? Well, he's a building manager. I'm like, how much does this job pay? And he said, well, it pays $5.50 an hour. Like, my God, this is pretty amazing. I said, well, I'm going to apply for this job. But my Pakistani friend said, well, this is only for white people. So they never applied. But I was so naive. Naivety is actually a bliss. I was naive enough to believe that I could get the job. So I applied for that job. And I eventually, after many interviews, I got that job. The lady who is my angel, Karen Meaden, she's still my friend, by the way. She hired me in 1990 for this position, the building manager position. And she asked me a lot of questions, because it was obviously a lot of people applied for that job. And a few questions that I remember, she said, if you have gays and lesbians, how would you handle them? And I had just learned what gays and lesbian meant. Remember, I'm just a 19-year-old kid from Pakistan, fresh off the boat. And I said, well, if they follow policy, I don't really care. It doesn't really matter. Policy dictates everybody. And she said, and would you have any problem reporting to a female supervisor? And I said, well, the reason she is my supervisor is because she knows more than I do, so I would have no problem. Now, these are very progressive answers coming from a fresh off the boat guy from Pakistan in 1990. She's still, to this day, my friend. She was actually in the audience when I was given the award about a month ago in Minnesota. So I'm just lucky enough that God has put me in these positions. So when so a local television was interviewing me, just like this one, in Minnesota, because they think that I've done a few great things, which I'm obviously humbled, but I don't think I've done anything extraordinary. But a local TV news was covering me, and I saw a kid from like a foreign student, walking by, and I saw him. Then I kept talking to the camera. 10 minutes later, he walked back again. So I asked the camera folks to pause the camera for a minute. And so they paused the camera, and I said, son, can I help you? He said, well, I just wanted to shake your hands. I'm working at the same place washing dishes where you used to work 35 years ago. And I just hope one day I could be like you. I said, son, do you dream? And he goes, yes, sir, I do. I'm like, no, not at night, the daydream. Do you daydream? And he said, I haven't really paid attention to it. I'm like, start doing daydreams, because the dreams that you create while you're awake are the most important dreams. So the answer to all the students, anybody who's listening to me, is never quit daydreaming, because daydreamings are those powerful pillars that you can build a foundation, that you can build a big story and create an extraordinary story. Excellence is a choice that we make every day. It's difficult to get out of the bed at 6 a.m. I get it, because I used to walk to my college campus to wash dishes at 4:45 in the morning at 70 below wind chill. Back in those days, we didn't have any climate change issues. So those are brutal cold winters, right? But if your purpose is driven by greatness, if your purpose is extraordinary, if your purpose is excellence, great things will just come to you. Every day you're meeting great people. And the core principle is becoming a person of service. I always ask, when I talk to students in colleges and campus, and I spoke to Davidson as well, I say, well, how many of you guys would love to meet people that are extraordinary, that are great, they're doing wonderful things, making a lot of money and blah, blah, blah. And almost everybody raised their hands. I'm like, for you to be that kind of person, you have to become one first. So question is, do we invest enough time in ourselves? Do we become the person of service that we want to be? Are we really leading a life of greatness? Are we getting up in the morning and making sure that even if somebody is, like, there are many times when I when I would just leave my seat for somebody or help put somebody's luggage in the airplane if somebody is having a difficult time doing it. Look for those opportunities to do one good deed every single day. I always tell people, focus on 4 people. I am not concerned about who's outside on the street right now. If I can just focus on 4 people at any given time, which is person ahead of me, person behind me, to my right, to my left, I've done good. And that's the focus we should have. We should not be focusing on changing the world. If we can just change the world for the 4 people that are closest to us, imagine what would that do. The ripple effect is incredible. So by focusing every single day of that little act of kindness, intentional act of kindness, whether it be helping somebody crossing the road or putting somebody's luggage in the airplane, or somebody can't speak a language, help them translate. With my international exposure travels, you learn to realize that the common language is humanity, kindness, peace, like I said before. And those languages aren't dependent on some verbiage or some alphabets. So that's my message. Focus on creating greatness. If you look at my bio or look at my history, I look for opportunities every single day intentionally, not something that just comes my way, but really intentionally looking for those things where I can be of service. And then eventually, people like that, they're so charismatic that the entire room changes because of their presence. It's filled with opportunities and greatness. While we can talk about despair and hopelessness, but we can choose to focus on opportunities and happiness. And when we were bringing people together, greatness just happens because of the fact that geography matters. That's why I've always believed in being in person in front of people. I've always believed in handshake. But like I said, the languages of kindness and compassion and sincerity and hope is a common language. Everybody's looking for it. So you don't need a linguistic skill set to deliver that.
Yeah. And that's how you hold the room.
As you hold the room.
Presence.
Love the title here.
Thank you for coming to my room.
Of course, my pleasure.
I look forward to doing it again sometime soon.
Absolutely. If I have more news to share, I will be here.
I am sure you have so much more to share.
Well, thank you for having me.
And truly, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise.
Thank you so much for being here. If you'd like to engage more with us, I hope to see you inside Hold the Room Collective. There you'll find monthly classes, live Q&As with our guests, and a community choosing presence together. If you found this conversation valuable, it would mean a lot to me if you'd leave a comment to let us know and share it with someone who's made you feel seen. This episode of Hold the Room was filmed at Charlotte's Star Room, produced by 2 Market Media, and sponsored by Marina Ivanov, known as the Trucking Queen. Marina owns Apex Transit Solutions, providing freight transportation services nationwide. Thank you, Marina, for keeping us connected. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts and be the first to hear the latest episodes. Until next time, remember, every conversation is an opportunity to choose presence.